I think one of the funniest things about you being an influencer is that you constantly will tell people you have 1 million followers, regardless of the circumstances. Like, you could be I remember like shopping while you're blind, and you were like telling the checkout lady, you're like, I'm blind, but I have 1 million followers. Like, you didn't have 1 million at the time, but you're like, I have 900,000 followers. During chemo, you're like telling all the nurses how you have 1 million followers. Literally, like, you will tell anyone who will listen that you have 1 million followers. If there's any dead space in a conversation with someone who doesn't know, you're like, did you know that I have 1 million followers? Hello.
I'm nervous about this week.
Why are you nervous?
I'm nervous about my assignment.
Well, your assignment's for next week. This week we're just brainstorming. Next week you actually need to write something.
Yeah, I won't be nervous when I'm with you doing it. I think it's just like the idea that I'm going to have to tackle this is going to be a little bit outside I have to stretch the brain, get outside my comfort zone.
And for those tuning in, we changed the format of the podcast. So last week we talked about a story. This week I am going to share jokes that I wrote about the story. Then after we do that, we're going to talk about a new prompt, question, story, conversation starter that we write jokes about for next week. So this week, do you have any other thoughts?
So I just want to say, all right, so we're both going to write jokes next week.
Next week we're both going to write jokes, yeah.
That's great. That's really fun.
Which I'm really excited for.
I already know that you're going to win, so let's just call it a day on that. Yours are going to be funnier, but I'm going to do my best. Because
it'll be good.
I'm funny.
It'll be very
I'm
good.
Excited. All right. So how would you like to kick it off? Do you want to perform for me now? Like pretend we're at a club? Yeah.
I'll do a little like preamble of like recapping what we did last week, but you should really just tune into last week's episode if you want to really understand it. We talked about how over Thanksgiving, Tommy and Jenna announced that they were having a baby girl, and how the announcement happened in such a funny way because I was on FaceTime and you were there, and it was just like a very chaotic but funny moment. And do you want me to explain like my approach to the story, or like how I formatted it into a bit before or after I do it? Like, do you want to hear the jokes first and then I can kind of explain my thought process of why I did certain things?
Yes, I do. I want to hear the jokes first. I want to have a clean slate, and then you can tell me the process.
Okay.
Because I might surprise you how I write jokes.
Because it might surprise you how I kick this off. Because this bit I've been working on, like usually we're not going to do this, but I've been working on this bit for like a couple weeks. Okay. So I've tried different angles and approaches, which I'll explain afterwards why I decided to go in this direction. Because I feel like I had a breakthrough after our podcast last week that helped me figure out the direction of like how the jokes should go and how the flow of them.
That's exciting.
It's going to be It's going to be really weird trying to like perform them. I feel like I need to like hold the microphone.
Yeah, no, you need to get a separate prop so you can do it.
I know. All right. And again, these are rough. These are not like final by any means, because I feel like some of them I'm not very confident in, but that is part of the process.
All right. We're going to be open to everything right now. This is a workshop. We're workshopping.
Yeah. Okay. I'm nervous.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why. Okay. Ready? The most Gen Z thing about me is that I work for an influencer. And you might know them too because they have over 1 million followers on TikTok. Yeah, the influencer is my mom. I know what you're thinking. That should be me. I'm a Gen Z millennial, and my mom being better at social media than me is confusing. Like if I owned multiple homes and she had crippling student loan debt. Okay, making content is now a requirement at all family gatherings. No dessert until everyone's learned the Texas Hold'em dance challenge.
Accurate.
Everyone likes to shit on influencers, but it's a lot of work creating content. My mom is so committed that she has a separate phone exclusively for content. And then I get into the story. So I say,
here we are.
Yeah, you got the two phones.
One recording here.
So my mom, so my family lives on the East Coast, and I FaceTimed in for Thanksgiving. And my mom might have a steady hand for making content, but she does not have a steady hand in passing me around the room over the holidays on FaceTime. I regret not taking Dramamine. Okay. During this FaceTime, my brother and his wife announced that they're expecting their first baby. Such an exciting moment, and I was so thankful I could be there on FaceTime until my mom stared into the camera and went, "Oh my God, I can't," and tossed her phone away to who knows where, and I got to experience the announcement from what I could only guess was the floor. And then in this bit, I have done this, and I lay on the floor at the on the stage, and I go, it was like, wow, this is so, I can't do it here, but like I lay on the floor so that you get the visual of me like kind of not there. And I go, wow, this is so exciting. Am I allowed to ask what the gender is, or is that not socially acceptable anymore? Did you guys get a new lighting fixture? Laying on the floor, I had time to contemplate how my life was changing. My brother is going to be a dad responsible for another living being, and I'm wondering if I can afford to buy another puzzle this month. I wasn't upset my mom threw me to the side. I was actually proud of my mom for being in the moment. But weeks later, I got tagged in an Instagram post that showed when she threw me to the side, the influencer in her picked up her phone to vlog. That is the level of commitment. If anyone knows the viral potential of a pregnancy announcement, it's an influencer with 1 million followers. And don't get me wrong, if I had 1 million followers, damn straight I would have done the exact same thing. Oh, so that's kind of the bit.
That is awesome. That's funny. Have you workshopped that yet at an open mic?
I've workshopped parts of it, and I will say, so before last week, before we discussed it on the podcast, the direction that I was going with this bit was like, I'm a long distance daughter. I'm the youngest daughter. I would tell people this story and they'd be like, oh, you should like talk about another time you were like forgotten as a child. And I'm like, I wasn't really like, you guys didn't like, I was the youngest, but I wasn't really like forgotten about. Like,
Thank you. I appreciate that. Would make me cry because, oh my God, if anything.
Because everyone's like.
Me screaming at the mailman to come up and see you when you were born.
I feel like it didn't resonate to go in that direction, and I was struggling for like a really long time on like how to make that work. So I'm like, I don't really feel like this makes sense. I don't think it's honest. It's like a big thing. Like I like my comedy to be like very truthful. And I was just like really struggling. So like I don't really have moments of like a traumatic event where I was like, oh, I was forgotten as a kid, or like you left me at the growth. Like that didn't really happen.
No.
So
I wouldn't have left
I didn't
you.
feel like that
I
was
like left someone else, but that's another story.
I didn't think that was like a fair representation of like how I felt. And I think after last week and understanding that, like, no, you put the phone down of me so that you could record is actually like the funnier thing of like you, in a way, like putting me down to focus on influence.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Well, no, that makes more sense because it's more true to, number one, to our relationship. So it would compute if like people knew you before, they would know you were making it up because they know we're close and you likely weren't forgotten as a child. So that wouldn't necessarily resonate with people. No. So I like how you took it.
So, and some of those influencer jokes you've heard before, they've existed, like the one about, if that you being influencers, like if I had owned multiple homes and you had like a student loan, like that's.
But that made sense to tie in. That made sense to tie
it kind
into
of
the
like
story,
is
to set it up.
It makes more sense now. It's like a better. Before I was just making observations about you being influencer. This is more like a story and like really proving your influencer tendencies, whether they're good or bad.
Okay, so you know what's really funny, because I know this week we're going to talk about me being an influencer, like some stories, so that this is going to only add to what you're going to have, like a whole further along set based on what we're going to talk about today. Because I was tasked today with thinking of some things that were amusing or some stories about being a content creator that I could share with you, and then we both go and write jokes about them. Mm-hmm. And I definitely have been thinking about it because I'm like, a lot of the things we've talked about, so it's not like a new story to you or something like that. So what I thought, is it a good time to go into this now, or
sure, let's do it. I feel like
because I would
unless you have unless you have any feedback on jokes, and if you want me to.
I have more questions about how you structure, like what's your process for structuring the joke, but maybe what you can do after we talk some stories, maybe you can tell me, like guide me on the homework, because it's going to be homework for me that I've never done before. So I don't really understand. I don't know how you do it really. Like I know the stories, and some of them I think, oh, there's probably some funny material in here, but I wouldn't even know how to write it or how to begin to write it. So you're going to have to help me with that.
Gladly. This is going to be fun. And then when you come next time, if you come for my March show, you can have a little 5-minute spot and you can run your set.
Oh my God. I can't wait to tell Chris Anderson. She's going to faint because she was like, you should take a comedy class. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that because that's Julie's thing. And I don't think I should intrude on her mojo of what she's doing. And she's like, oh, that's so thoughtful of you as a mom. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, oh, let me see if I can be funny too, but since you have brought this into our aura now, I think it's funny. And then it could be like, partly we do a dual thing, like I was saying last week, which would be fun.
All right.
Fun.
So you want to go through some of your story? I know these might be like a little bit like, I feel like my goal for like this part of it is usually we'll have like a thought starter question or like a prompt. Okay. I know this one's a little bit like, we might have like we each might have a few smaller stories because there's just like so many little things. So why don't you start off with what you were thinking of?
Okay. Because I've made some, and thinking about these things that might make good joke material and also are true things that have occurred, and they're not like a moment, but it's more like observations of being an influencer from my perspective. And so I have a couple. So one of them is, and I don't know how to write this, but somewhere you're going to help me, but being an influencer on TikTok, but living in a generation where most people don't even use the app or are not even in that world of social media has made it incredibly difficult for me to be at times in social settings with these folks that are my age, that are not people I've met on TikTok. So for example, and this is like, sorry to my friends in high school, because they're probably, maybe some of them listen to this, but a lot of times when I'm with them, I kind of want to talk about things that I've seen or something. One of them will say something and it reminds me of a trend, and I can't participate. Like I can't almost, relate those things. I can't even share them because they're not even going to know what I'm talking about. So it's like being trapped in a world where you are in on some jokes, but no one else is in on it.
Yeah.
And it's really challenging, honestly, because I find it happens a lot, really.
I think I have like a similar, like not similar, but like I can understand because I know a lot of people aren't on like TikTok or aren't, even my generation just aren't on it. Even if they like are still on Instagram, it's like not the same. So they don't really, in a different way, they don't get the trends or like the references. I was taking a comedy writing class a couple weeks ago, like back in December, and I made a joke about like the Costco guys. Do you know the Costco guys?
Okay. Yeah. Oh,
and I made it
on TikTok.
Yeah. On TikTok.
Yeah. On TikTok.
And I told a joke about the Costco guys and nobody understood what I meant.
Oh.
And they were all, the range was like 20s to like 50s of people. Wow. So it was like a very niche thing that
it is niche. And there are some things that are very, there's some things, sometimes there are things that are niche, especially, and there's niche sounds, like I'll hear something and then sometimes I'll do something and I'll be with a friend and I'll go, we're doing a thing, whatever it is. And I go, nobody's going to know. How would they know? And I do this whole bit to myself, to them. But, and they don't know it's a bit. They're just like thinking I'm funny. Like no one's going to know. How would they know? I'm not, you know what I mean? I do the whole, and so I feel that sometimes trapped, like I have two lanes, like my social self, that's my like in real life with people that I've known, family even, like, family, friends. And then I have this whole other life where it's like jokes, and and poor Tom is always getting the bridge, like I'm always bridging it for him. I'm like, let me just explain to you this trend, and he doesn't even, first of all, understand memes, and he doesn't even get that whole world. But sometimes I try. I'm like committed. I'm going to explain to him why this is funny, and I'm going to try. So I do make the effort on the home front with him. The poor guy, he has to deal with me. But for the most part, I feel like I'm running these two lanes in social settings, and now I'm finding that it's a lot of times even it's at work too, because at times when I work with young people, that a lot of them are still millennials that are not on social media, and they think like, oh, she's so, I'm out there and I'm like on these shoots and I'm doing these things, and no one even understands it. So I do feel like there's something in here that's joke material, that's like me living in Iceland in a bubble when everyone else, I don't know, you got to help me workshop.
Oh my gosh. Do you have another one, or do you want me to share one?
Yeah. No, I got another one.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, I got two more.
Okay.
Two more. Here we go. So the next one is when I always talk about like, we're going to do this cool transition and we're going to like make a transition in a video. This is like foreign language to people who are not on social media. But I also realize that it's like a double foreign language, because transition, when you're in the transgender community and you're transitioning from male to female, no. So there's the word that's used in that vein. But I still think like the people in my real world, they don't even connect. They wouldn't even default to that one. So it's like this like part, maybe it's part of the other one. It's like an unspoken language that people outside the world of social media don't know. So, okay, so maybe we'll include that in the first one. Okay? We'll just include that. Okay. So now let me go to the third one. The third one is...
What do you mean you're going to include that in the first one? Just like...
Well, just because it's like being misunderstood, like
got it.
Like using terms that someone might misinterpret, but then, or they don't even know what I mean because it's like a different language. And sometimes I put it on my TikTok story, like teaching transitions in the studio this week. I'm like, half of my people don't even know, like half of my family don't even know what that means that are watching my videos, because they're just watching me for my updates. Like grandma wants to know where I am, and she just looks at my social media to figure out what I'm doing. Anyway, that's probably a bit for a joke. Like the way she finds out what I'm doing in my life, like she thought I was going to Florida this week because she said, "Oh, I saw you were going to be in Sarasota," and I'm like, "Actually, it's Tampa," but she saw something about somebody in Sarasota.
Oh my God! So close enough. Close enough.
All right,
she's trying her best.
That. We could do a bit with her, but we'll skip that one for this week. So the next one is that, and this started when I was going through the cancer journey in 2022 on social media, when I had that one viral video and there were like verified like celebrity people in my, and so I'm going to just name drop two names who consistently comment on my videos consistently. And then a third, there's many, but there's like these two consistently are in my videos, and I love it. I feel so. Jenny McCarthy and the 50 Shades of Grey, Erica James.
Okay.
They're always like liking. I could, because you can always see who likes and who saves or whatever. And I'm like, oh man. And so now the funny thing to me is that a lot of people think they know me because of my parasocial. And I kind of think, well, they're my friends now. You know what I mean?
And Bethany Frankel, isn't she one that like
Bethany
follows
Frankel,
you?
of course. And of course, my friend, well, I'll say Gina Homolka, who actually is a friend now. So it's weird because I interviewed her on a podcast and now I do consider her a friend. But I could joke around and say, I always joke with her like, oh, my famous friend, because she's a famous cookbook author. But she really kind of is a friend now, which is weird. Like we've transcended through my parasocial thinking that like Jenny McCarthy is my friend because she knows everything. She will always comment and like on things when I'm just talking, not my like trendy cool videos, none of the tutorials, nothing like that. If it's me just talking about one time I was talking about like how I didn't like my arms, like a video like that, she'll always like comment or like on like something personal. So it's like she knows me. I know she knows
she
me.
knows me.
She knows me. And
those are good ones.
She only knew that when I was in production back in the day and I had to interview New Kids on the Block, I actually was in a hotel room interviewing New Kids on the Block at a place in Raleigh, North Carolina, and somewhere else, another state, I can't remember now. And I interviewed her husband. Like, think about it. He was a new kid on the block.
Think about it.
And I'm like, girl, I interviewed him back in the day, you know? So I just feel that someday the universe is going to bring us together to meet in real life, which I think is hilarious.
That's funny.
All right, so those are my
like
things.
those. I think those are good.
I think I'm really friends with these people. But part of me thinks.
I feel like from a comedy perspective, I'll tell. Like, do you want?
Yes, help me work through this. It's going to be funny.
From like a comedy perspective, I think the first story is more interesting in terms of like where I think there's potential for material, where there's potential for bits. I think, like. Because you're an older woman making jokes about how you're on social media and like your friends aren't is an interesting story in itself. So it's like just about finding the jokes or the examples in it. I think that has the potential. I think when you're working on like crafting a bit that maybe goes around a story, it's important to think about what is like the one thing you want someone to take away from this, so you don't get too caught up in like trying to tell everything in one bit. Okay. If that makes sense. So like the pregnancy announcement story, there's so many other layers to it that I didn't include. Like I didn't include the fact that Jonathan was like, I don't want to be an uncle. Like I didn't include the fact that like I left out, like those things are comical, But given the fact that I don't have like an hour, I'm not doing a 60-minute stand-up set. I don't have like the time for that. So it's like, what's the most important things that I want to tell the jokes about, and what do I want people to like take away from it? So
okay,
those are
I
kind
see.
of
So
like,
you did leave that part out. Okay, good point taken.
I think another one is like, you want to like tell parts of your story. If it's more of a story, it's like you want to say an observation of the story, and then kind of like how that made you feel, and like the how that made you feel is like where you get the jokes in of like.
Okay.
Let me try.
God, I'm gonna have trouble with this, but I'm gonna do my best. No, you're gonna
be fine. You just start with like a few ideas. Like you just start with a few funny thoughts. Like it's not even doesn't have to be craziness.
Okay, I'm gonna try.
Do you want to hear?
I have to have a setup, right? Go ahead. So, what are your things that you're gonna observe about me? Let's just.
Well, do you want me to keep going on like ideas for making these into jokes, or do you want to hear my stories? I don't know if they'll help you.
No, let's go a little more on helping me, and then we'll go into yours. Okay. So like, it's like if I was kicking off with like, so you might not know this by looking at me, but I'm actually an influencer. Something like you might, by looking at me, if there was a lineup of people in this room, or I could pick maybe the front row. If you looked at the people in the front row and I was standing next to them, who would you pick out to be the influencer? Could I do something like that?
Yeah, you definitely could.
Okay.
You could also go with like, I look like a blank, but I'm actually a social media influencer. So I have a joke right now in my material where I talk about being from New Jersey. I go like, I'm from New Jersey, which I know is confusing because I don't look like, I say I look like I say I look like I'm a corn-fed girl from the Midwest. Nothing about me screams I grew up in the same cinematic universe as Snooki.
Oh, wow. That's good.
So that's kind of like how you can format that.
Okay.
I mean, there is like setup and punchline. I don't know how like minutia you want me to get here. I think part of it is just going to have to be you start writing, and obviously there's like a setup and a punchline. So think of your sentences as like a setup and then a punchline, a setup and then a punchline.
Oh God, I'm taking notes. I brought pen and paper.
I'll send you some reading materials.
But you have like such a funny way of phrasing things, and I don't know that I have that knack. I just might not have the skill set, but maybe you can help me through it. Because you know what I wrote down like right now, just for funsies? I wrote,
for funsies,
I may look like a boomer, but actually I'm a TikTok star.
Yeah, there you go. That's good. I may look like a boomer,
I know.
but that's
funny, right? It's you probably don't believe me, and I point to some in the audience. You probably don't believe me, do you? That's right. You don't believe me, and I'll tell you what. And then I do a move from like TikTok.
Oh my God, physical comedy. I mean? We're going advanced.
I do
the thing, the renegade move. Oh my God.
Yeah. Throw it back.
I think I don't want you to get too, because I know you, and you'll get too caught up in like the structure and the weeds and how it's supposed to be. And you just need to start with like, what do you feel is funny, and what do you feel would make you like? It's like you want to write jokes that will make you laugh. Like you shouldn't write a joke that you think the audience will laugh at. It's like, what do you think? What would make you laugh, and what would you enjoy telling?
Okay. Got it. I think.
Do you have any other questions?
So I just have to, should I first like tell the story and then break it into 4 sections and divide? Maybe that's my.
You're getting into the minutia. No one said 4 sections. Who said 4? Who put a number out there?
I was just trying to give myself something tangible.
No.
Okay. So teacher Juli. Actually, what should I do first?
Why don't I tell you my stories, and then I'll tell you like what I'm going to do next.
Okay, good. And that way I can relate. Okay, go ahead. Go.
Okay. So I have a few ideas for like stories and bits that I could make from stories, but I think one of the funniest things about you being an influencer is that you constantly will tell people you have 1 million followers, regardless of the circumstances. Like, you could be I remember like shopping while you're blind, and you were like telling the checkout lady, you're like, I'm blind, but I have 1 million followers. Like, you didn't have 1 million at the time, but you're like, I have 100,000 followers. During chemo, you're like telling all the nurses how you have 1 million followers. Literally, like, you will tell anyone who will listen that you have Accurate. 1 million followers. And I think it's so funny because it's just hilarious. Like, anywhere you go, if there's any dead space in a conversation with someone who doesn't know, you're like, did you know that I have 1 million followers?
No, I will always start with like, are you on TikTok? I usually preface it with that.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Because I need to gauge the audience before I drop the bomb of, and I just think what I like about sharing that is that it is very unexpected. I know this when I'm moving through life. Like, sometimes I'll be in a situation and I'll be completely being ignored by whatever. Let's just pretend I'm at a bar and I'm trying to get a drink, and I'm like disregarded. I've had that problem a lot in my life, by the way. That specific problem where I'm like, am I invisible? Like, okay, I'm not hot, but am I invisible? Anyway, but I digress, because that happened to me, and maybe I'm scarred from my youth, but I just feel like now I need to shout the clout.
Like, shout the clout?
I'm shouting the clout.
Oh my God.
Because I feel like I've been wronged for so long that I can't even order a fucking drink because the bartender won't even look at me. And I'm like, what the frick did I do wrong?
Well, that's a funny story that you could use to like talk about your TikTok fame. Like,
see? Okay. Bartender, ignore. I'm writing. You should write the bit for me, and then I just do it. Anyway, all right. I'm going to... That
would defeat the purpose of you trying to write a joke.
Okay. All right. So that's one of your... What's another one of yours?
Another one that I think could be funny is like the types of brand deals you get versus the types of brand deals that I get with like a fraction of the followers. Like you get brand deals for like adult diapers, and I still get brand deals for like, you want this like shapewear, like activewear, and I'm like... they don't offer me any money, but at least like you're getting offered money to promote adult diapers.
Oh, brother. I hate that. I did get, by the way, I got an email today from Prime Promedic, that cosmetic Prime.
Okay.
It's like the good mascara. They asked me my rate for content. I know.
Send it my way.
Today.
Send it to your manager.
Today. And that's what I said. I have a few questions, and then I was going to say, and I need to have my manager review it, but I said, don't be a jerk, Helen.
Well, you need to tell me these things, but still.
I'm telling you now. This is the first time we talked today, so in fairness, I didn't even get to tell you. But so I'll send it to you. And it came to our joint email, the hello email, so you can see it for yourself. It was buried deep.
Take a gander.
I missed it from December, and they followed up. They're like, hello, we just want to make sure. I'm like, oh no, I almost missed it.
It's okay.
So I'm excited.
But I think that could be like a funny... I don't know where I'm going to go yet. I feel like I think it's funny. I have other ones of like, maybe not necessarily. I remember the time we like were in Park City a couple years ago, and you recorded of it. Like, I was trying to do this like Beyonce dance, and I did it in public in front of a patio of like all of these restaurants that were dining. Do you remember? And it's like I dropped it low.
Oh my God. Yes.
And so I feel like there could be something there with like, how you dance, like the recording the dances in public, or how you do like interviews, and maybe just like the aspects of like how you make content and how that's like very different than a Gen Z influencer who's like, here's a day in my life as an influencer.
I know, they just have to act so perfect, and I'm like,
hello. Aesthetic.
I was just at the Madison Square Park, and there's these carousel things there now. And so I'm like, I had to record something, but nobody. And then I stopped these two boys, and they must have been like in their 20s. And I said, would you just film me for a second?
Oh
and instead of like spinning the thing like I should have, I started running around it, holding onto it. So he was following me around.
Oh my God.
After I walked away, I go, he must have thought I was an idiot. Why didn't I just spin it like a carousel instead of running around it?
Oh my God.
You can't make it up.
I can't make it up.
This is why I can't be funny, because my life is just funny as it is. I don't even know.
You could tell the story in a funny way. Like, it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
I think what's important is like things. You if you're not going to tell like a specific story, it's like it's like you talk about something, say you talk about how you get all this attention because as soon as you tell someone you're TikTok famous, you're like, how come it doesn't happen when I go to the bar? And then you do a little, like, the way I'm envisioning it is like you say a joke about, I have 1 million followers. As soon as I tell someone I have 1 million followers, like their eyes light up and they want to know everything about me and they want to be in a video. And you're like, why can't I get that kind of attention when I want to order a drink at a bar? Like that could be
that's perfect.
And maybe the bit ends up being about how it's like healing your inner teenager of like getting the attention you always wanted because you're like,
oh my God.
Now you're like, you get that attention. Like you post a video and all these people are flooding your DMs and maybe the end of the bit is just like, I wish I had like a little spotlight that's like TikTok influencer, whatever. Like maybe that is the angle you take with your bit. There you go.
God.
Boom. Mic drop.
Mic drop. That's so good because and then we never even talked about this on the inner teenager, but going out to a bar, I'm talking about like, now and of recent years and in my 20s, but try going out to a bar with twin sisters who are very pretty. Okay. So like double down on everything I'm just saying. Like they were like, and then talk about being doubly invisible. So you're right. Like, I think maybe that's what, now we're in a therapy session.
That's part of it.
This is crazy. I'm going to live my therapy session out loud on stage. But I have talked about this before like I've mentioned it to Dad, like how it used to be like, I would go out and I'd be like invisible, literally. Like, hello.
Maybe that's why
I'm
you
here.
Don't like, maybe that's why you, I'll say.
What were you going to say? That's why what? Finish that thought.
Oh, that's just like, that could be like the whole bit of like why you love being TikTok famous is you get the attention that you never got in your teen and early 20s, and all the people on TikTok are in their teen and early 20s, so you feel like you're finally getting the attention.
You just solved, first of all, not only did you solve my comedy bit, you just solved my mental crisis probably from childhood. I think we just had full-on therapy by accident.
So wow. What I was going to say next is that my friends went to this like comedy workshop, and the framework that this comedian, her name was like Cameron Esposito, was telling comics is like, you think of like 5 things that have happened to you like in the past like year, and then you pick one of those, pick the most interesting or the strongest one. Think of like the 5 emotions you felt because of that moment or that story, and then pick one of those emotions, focus on that. When was another time you felt that emotion, and then connect those 2 stories. So like we kind of just did that but backwards. So we talk about you really loving TikTok, you get to be creative, you get to do all these things, but like you get the attention. Where was a time in your life when you didn't get attention or you had too much attention? And we talk about the bar, and now we bring those together, and you have like what can be the back and forth of your bit.
That is so genius. And I would have never thought to bring the bar thing was like an off the cuff comment.
That's
like
what happens.
I don't even know what.
That's
and I didn't even think.
workshop.
I have not thought about that until now. I haven't even thought about that as a. Wow.
Breakthrough. This
is fun. Oh my God.
I'm really excited now to see what you have. The framework now of like what you need to do.
Oh no.
Now it's just about like writing it down.
Okay.
I'm trying to think.
I don't have anybody to workshop it with.
I know, that's okay. You can workshop it with me during the week. That's fine.
Okay.
I think we'll make it so that you have some jokes next week. What you need to do is like think about. Okay, so in the next step of my process, sometimes it's different. There's a few different things that I'll do depending on like what the bit or the premise of the idea is. A lot of times I'll take like a premise idea and I'll just go to an open mic and see where my brain takes me while I'm on stage.
Oh my God. God bless you. How do you do that? That's terrifying.
Because then it gives me a sense of like, I'm on the spot. I need to think of something. What's going to make these people laugh in front of me?
Oh, okay. That's funny.
So that helps. Another thing that I've done, which also helped with like the pregnancy announcement bit, was like doing just like free writing. I'm like, okay, for like 5 minutes, I'm going to type as much as I can about this and how I feel about it, and just like brain dump, where I'm not trying to write like jokes. I'm just trying to like literally get out all my feelings about something. So those are kind of like the 2 avenues like I'll take.
All right.
Because sometimes when it's like, oh, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write the best jokes, that's not how it's going to happen. Like, I feel like a lot of my bits recently have been coming from like, I have an idea about this story. I'm going to talk about a few bullet points I thought of at this open mic and then see where it goes. Talk to friends, talk to other comedians. So you should just start thinking about like if you were visualize yourself on stage and like what you'd be saying if you had a crowd of people in front of you.
Okay. Now I'm going to just say this. You like the process of writing.
Yeah. Me,
not so much. Like it's really a struggle for me to say, I'm going to write this down. Or write. Like so I'm trying to think, does it make sense for me to almost like not make a video, but like make some video content? Like if I was going to talk about this on video, because that's how I, as a content creator.
You could do some voice memos. You don't even
maybe
have to make a
I
video.
just do, right. Wait, yeah, voice memos. I've been using voice memos a lot because now I have that new thing I'm doing for how I record. I think using this technique of voice notes to get my thoughts on paper and then back. So it's like, for me to get anything written, I almost need to speak it.
Yeah. You can do that.
And then read it and say, okay, now what would I change? I might have said, I should say this first and that second and rearrange it. And then I can speak it again. Workshop
it with Dad.
Oh, God.
No, he's not a good. Yeah. He'll be a bad workshopper.
I know, because he doesn't think anything's funny.
Easily. I don't think has he ever laughed at a joke I've told? We don't know. I think he just
I don't know.
Chuckles. But
he chuckles.
I'm really excited to see where you go this week. And I think next week I had the idea that we could think of like an embarrassing story, like an embarrassing moment from like childhood or like our teenagehood, which could be like a funny, bring some funny stories if we think of like some embarrassing moments. But
good.
Next week we're gonna write our jokes, and then next week we're gonna share them in the beginning.
Okay.
And we're gonna see Helen craft perfect.
Oh,
not
gosh.
Perfect. It's gonna be great. You're gonna make us laugh.
Okay, I'm gonna make you laugh. We'll see. All right, this was fun.
I'm excited.
Okay, let's wrap it up. Yours truly,
Helen and Julie.
If you enjoyed this and you're liking this whole exercise we're doing, I'm liking it. So if no one else is liking it, I feel that at least we're going to do something productive together. And that is fun. So if you're enjoying it and you want in on any of this, like to give us any feedback, comments, what you're enjoying or what you think we should do next, please do. We'd love to hear from you you can comment on the YouTube channel. You can message us, whatever, on Instagram. Do your thing and get to us because we are listening and we want to hear what you have to say. Julie, thank you. This was fun. I feel like I'm in your class now. And I'm so used to being the teacher in social media and in the studio. So this is really, really fun for me. I'm going to be the student. I'm going to see what I can learn.
I'm very excited to see where you go. So we'll have to wait until next week.
Okay. We'll see you then.
Alrighty. Bye.
Bye.